Welcome to Attitude at Altitude,
where three Colorado women say what everyone else is thinking,
but nobody's saying out loud.
I'm Brenda Morrison.
I'm Sheila McDonald.
And I'm Cathy Lucas. We're unbiased,
unfiltered, unscripted,
and unapologetically ourselves.
And we're here to talk about what's happening in our community, our state,
our country, and yes, our lives.
With zero fluff and a whole lot of attitude.
This is the podcast for anyone who's earned their opinions, lived some life, and isn't about to start holding back now.
So buckle up.
We're at altitude.
And we like it up here. Hello, I'm Cathy Lucas, and welcome to Attitude at Altitude, where we are unbiased, unbossed, and unapologetic, and a whole lot of spice. I'm excited to be here with my co-host, Sheila McDonald and Brenda Morrison. We've got a lot to talk about. From last night's primary, where our resident expert, Sheila, was doing commentary on CBS 4, to things going on in Washington, D.C., and then back to Colorado. And one thing I did want to say before we get into this, I wanted to take a moment to send a little bit of love to those dealing with the Aspen Acres fire burning across Pueblo and Custer counties. It's been a rough stretch for Southern Colorado, and we are here for our friends and neighbors that are suffering right now. So before we dive in, ladies, how are you?
Good. Happy post-election day.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy post-election day. Yeah, a lot going on. Should we?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Colorado made the New York Times, the Midas touch. We are under the microscope everywhere right now. But Sheila, I think you could really, why don't you start? Tell us about your experience last night, what you're thinking, what the hot topics were. Let's dive in.
Well, I think there's some big news in that a 30-year incumbent was defeated last night in a primary by a 29-year-old candidate who hasn't lived in Denver very long, has only voted in Denver once, and who really represents a younger generation who is tired of the status quo. And she just didn't win a little bit. She won with an 11-point spread right now, I think is what it is at this point. 11 percentage points. She really, soundly defeated Diana DeGette. And so what does that mean for the Democratic Party? What does it mean moving forward? Is Denver moving further left? And I think those are things we need to discuss today. I think I should also add that Michael Bennet in his gubernatorial run also lost Denver by a resounding margin. I think he only got 34% last I checked, maybe even less than that. And John Hickenlooper, who was a very popular mayor in Denver, 3 terms, close to 3 terms, 2.5 terms. He lost Denver to a candidate who had a lot less money than he did and who was working full-time in the legislature while she was running and has very little name recognition. So what does that mean for the Democratic Party? I think we have to really look at that. And are we moving further left?
I think you're right, Sheila. Clearly, there's a national wave of anti-incumbency and populism that's sweeping this country. So some have, I think, little to do about the candidate themselves and about what is happening nationally. And I think we've discussed many times that Congresswoman DeGette just had, for the last 6 to 8 years, not been visible here in Denver. But also, Melat Kiros is a very talented young woman. She's talented. She's charismatic. She kind of, gives off the AOC vibe or the Mondami vibe. But we also have to just remember that we're in Denver. We're not in the rest of the country. We're in Denver. Denver does not necessarily even represent the rest of the state. The Democratic primary in Colorado Springs, Jessica Killen won soundly, and she signed on for the centrist pledge yesterday. So it's that big tent that 60 miles to the south, Jessica Killen may win. Hers is, she does have a general election against an incumbent Republican. But there would be Jessica Killen and Melat and Joe Neguse and Jason Crow all in, and Brittany Pedersen all in the same delegation. And they have different points of views. I would say Melat's being the most progressive of the delegation, that's for sure.
Why does Progressive work hard for truckers? Because truckers unite the world. They unite kids with their first drum sets and parents with earplugs. But truckers can't do this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive has over 360 heavy truck employees to help truckers stay on time and on track. Quote truck insurance today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
As a small business owner, sometimes it feels like no matter how much planning you do, there's always surprises, like an urgent, expensive repair. But here's a surprise you will like. With Progressive, small business owners save 13% on their commercial auto insurance when they pay in full. So enjoy a surprise for once. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4th of July sale and get 30% off paints and stains June 26th through July 6th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
I was at Pride this weekend at the parade, and the difference. So Diana DeGette rolled by. She was in a fire truck, but really there was little fanfare, not a lot of cheering. Melat came through and people were so excited. They were cheering for her. The energy in the crowd rose. Yeah, it just got bigger and bigger. And then she passed. She was walking with everybody. So just the different dynamics between the two candidates, I just noticed that right away. And I think, to echo what you all said, Diana DeGette just hasn't been present. She hasn't been engaged, and people are feeling slighted by that, especially right now in this moment in time, what's going on nationally. So yeah, I just think you got a younger crowd that is coming into Denver. We got a lot of transplants here, and so they're looking at things a little bit differently than we have in the past.
I think that's right. And to be fair to Diana, though, she continues to do a lot for Denver. That Colfax project, the never-ending Colfax project, she got a lot of federal dollars for that project, more than they anticipated. And she really fought for that. She's fought for money for Denver Health. And I think it's not that she hasn't continued to work for Denver, because she has. And I don't think Melat Kiros can point to too many votes where she and DeGette would have voted differently, with the exception of aid to Israel. And so what's interesting to me is this a move to the left, or is this a generational shift where the 18 to 40-year-olds want somebody who is younger, who has more energy, who they view as one of them, versus somebody who's been around for 30 years, who's older, who they just don't relate to. I do think it's fair to say Diana hasn't run a campaign in probably 6 cycles. And so that hurt her this go around. And I think, give Kiros and her team credit. They had a great ground game. They worked very hard. They had a campaign plan. They clearly executed it. And I do think of it as more as a generational shift versus Denver's moving further to the left. Because the reality is, Diana's one of the original signers introducing Medicare for All. She's on that bill. She's one of the original people on the bill. So she's clearly been fighting for that. She's for universal health care. She's preschool. That's what Melat's talking about. And Diana's been fighting for that. It's how she's perceived, I think, to your point, Cathy, by this next generation. And she hasn't done enough to be out in the community. And it's a staff issue.
Look, Bernie Sanders is old and he's loved by the younger generation. So it's not necessarily a bad age, because look at Bernie. They love him. And he's continued to be beloved by younger people. I think that it's easier, and I think she's going to find this out. She's going to have a record in 2 years, and she's going to make votes or not vote, and she's going to find out you have to make choices, and some you might like and some you might not like. And she'll have to defend those choices as she goes along. And maybe we're entering a new system where a safe seat like Denver, like these seats in New York, and let's just put a big pin in that. Those are safe blue seats that we're talking about, where these Democratic socialists have won. Are we looking at in 2 years, if we don't like what she does, are we putting somebody else up? Is that how it's going to work? And I'm beginning to wonder if that's maybe how it should work, and that the time of letting an incumbent in a safe seat ride it out for years because they're the incumbent. That was what you did, right? You had an incumbent in a safe seat and you let them ride it out until they decided they wanted to retire. Maybe now it's different. And in 2 years, if the people of Denver, the voters of Denver don't like what she's doing, then does somebody jump in? Is that what we're looking at now? That, you know what, if she doesn't deliver on some of the promises, is she out in 2 years or 4 years because she can't deliver for whatever reason? Medicare for all and all of these other things? Maybe, maybe not, but maybe that's the way it should be. This incumbency rule where nobody primaries you is gone by the wayside. What do you think of that, Sheila?
I think what you're going to see is a lot more challenges to the incumbents, because you're not going to get enough challenges from the other side. So I think you're right.
Yeah, I believe you're right too, Brenda. The other thing I would say is, Sheila, you mentioned, everything that Congresswoman DeGette did do. That messaging, we didn't hear it. And that's what's unfortunate, because she really has such a legacy in Colorado and she has made changes. And when you think of all the money that she has brought in and all the changes that she's made, that unfortunately got lost, and it just became this mudslinging campaign against one another. And it's like, let's celebrate our successes. And I think that...
Here's a question. I agree with you. Here's a question for you. How does, let's say Barb Kirkmeyer's the nominee for the Republican Party. Going to be tough. She's smart and she's going to be tough. So how does Denver having a Democratic Socialist self-proclaimed, I don't actually know what that means because she and DeGette agree on just about everything. But how does that impact other races around the state, other close races, legislative races, the CDA? Do they tie Manny to Melat? Do they tie Phil to Melat? And so the Democrats are doing a big unity rally tomorrow. A picture with a Democratic Socialist, is that going to impact other campaigns, other Democrats in tough races?
If I was a Republican strategist, hell yeah, I would put up the Democratic Socialist website everywhere.
Yeah.
And just the fact that you just said it, we're not even sure what it means. And I think there are those people that do know what it means and they adhere to the principles and the values that are outlined on the platform. And I think there are people, just like anything else, that sounds cool, looks cool, that she's a younger, vibrant, charismatic individual, and they're jumping on the train. No idea what it means, but they do know, these young people know, and we're all, we all have young people in our lives, parents, we know their struggles. We know it's been difficult, jobs, education, all of that. And so they're looking at their lives and they're saying, yeah, there's got to be something better out there, right? And I'm going to jump on this because things aren't going as planned. And they want something else. And we can't blame them for that. But yeah, if I was a Republican, I would be jumping on this all day long and nationally jumping on this all day.
So what do Democrats do? What would you advise the Democrats to do at this point?
You're the strategist.
I mean, if I were in the Melat's campaign, I'd be telling her right now to be reaching out to the Jewish community and start to build some bridges there. I think the Jewish community is a huge part of the Democratic Party and a very important part of the Democratic Party, and have been for years. They've gotten people elected. in close races. And so how does the Democratic Party say there's room for everybody? But to Melat, some of the things she said are perceived to be anti-Semitic. And I will say this, is that I would say that her statement regarding the firebomb people in Boulder, saying, I don't know what's in his heart. That's what the right wing says about school shooters when they're asked, what were they thinking? I don't know what's in their heart. Or there's good people on both sides. And those are dog whistles in the Jewish community that she doesn't want to say that it was a act of terror against people in the Jewish community, which I will say, because I don't know how you can justify that as saying you don't know what's in his heart when the perpetrator yelled "Free Palestine" at people protesting the taking of hostages and asked them to be returned. They knew they were Jewish, or they presumed they were Jewish, and they targeted them. And so I think
absolutely they were targeted.
They were. And so I don't know. And she doubled down on that.
She doubled down on it last night, even. I mean, she didn't talk about that last night, but she doubled down on the anti-Israel platform. And that's also happened in New York, and they won. And I think they're viewing it as a winning issue right now. It's a winning issue to them. I don't think they're considering the Jewish community to be an important part of the coalition at all. I think in their calculation, it's 2% of the population in the U.S. And you've got two things going in their head supporting their point of view. One is that there's latent anti-Semitism in this country, and it's always been there. And so exposing that, they just expose that crack, and then the behavior of the Israeli government. And so between those two things, they think they have a winning issue, and it's not hurting them at all. Right. I don't think they care one bit about about the Jewish community. The Jewish community sent a very thoughtful letter to her, very thoughtful, and met with her, and she doubled down to them as well. So I think I don't think they perceive it as an issue.
So how do you think it impacts other candidates? I personally think it's going to impact Phil Weiser a lot, and I think it's going to impact Manny Rutnell a lot as well.
I think Manny Rutnell for sure. And I would also say, let's go back in time 2 years ago and look at Kamala Harris and how that impacted her campaign as well. And so I just think when people are disenfranchised, they tend to go in an opposite direction. And look what happened 2 years ago, and now who we have in office as the president. So we need to learn from that. And, if this truly is unity, Sheila, then I'd be curious to learn more. But what does unity look like? Is there messaging around that? Or is it just we're going and we're standing and we're doing a photo op?
I don't know the answer to that. I only heard about it today. And so I don't know. I'd like to go see it. I don't know the answer to that. Can we talk about the gubernatorial race a little bit
Yes.
And the
get into it.
Result of that? I think what has struck me is when Senator Bennett entered the race, his favorability was at about 60%, and people were very, they said basically like, how is Phil going to overcome that? And I think a lot of credit has to be given to Phil, not just for the past year, because he has done a lot for the last 8 years in terms of building community and working collaborative with people across the state for the last 8 years. And I think that has helped him. He had a great foundation to start with. But I also think a couple of things. One is, Michael's messaging at the end of the campaign that Phil isn't fighting back enough. When Phil has filed all these lawsuits, people just didn't believe it. And Phil came back with, you voted for Trump's nominees. So Michael is the one who voted for Trump's cabinet members, 8 out of 15. Now, he wasn't, there was a lot of people who voted for a lot more. And he voted for, to be fair, about 95% of his votes for Trump appointees were no's. So the cabinet members were 8 out of 15, but the rest was 95% of the other appointees he voted against. So to be fair, that's true. But Phil jumped on that. He's like, you're the one who voted for his appointees. You could have stood strong and you didn't do it. And so I think Michael sort of put himself in a position of accusing Phil of not being tough enough on Trump, and yet he wasn't tough enough on him in Washington himself. And so I don't think he had enough of a message throughout his campaign of why he was running and why he was leaving the Senate to be governor.
I think that hit it on the head. I overheard some people the other day while I was getting my hair cut. Great place to listen. And that was the conversation, was why is Senator Bennett leaving the Senate? There was no reason for that. And I think these pot shots they took at each other, I don't think the negative advertising was great. And the Michael Bloomberg thing didn't sell. And actually just dark money here wasn't effective either, which is a really interesting result in Denver, particularly in Denver. Now, this is not the rest of the state, by the way, but in Denver, it did not sell. I think the dark money was more effective in some of the suburbs outside of Denver, but
right.
Denver is really resisting the dark money. And I think people just kind of were like, gosh, Phil, we kind of like him. He's done a good job. Let's let him be governor. Senator Bennett, you're doing a good job in Washington. Why don't you just stay there and let's avoid all this? Like, was the sentiment that I got just from regular people.
I would agree with that too. I think they're like, Bennett, why don't you just stay in the Senate? You're doing a good job there. And Phil will do a good job as governor. And the unknown of who Bennett would appoint, I think, weighed on people too. And then, he made it clear he wasn't going to appoint Phil to the slot because he said, I'm going to nominate somebody under 50. And so I think not saying who he was going to appoint was problematic for him. And it was too many unknowns for people. And, the other thing is too, Michael can be very engaging and funny. And I think you saw it more right at the end of the campaign through his social media where he was sort of laughing and having fun. You did not see it for the last year. You didn't see it till the last 2 weeks. And I think that's unfortunate that a lot of the social media did not reflect his dry sense of humor or his personality. Whereas Phil's personality is right out there and it's the guy everybody knows and likes. And so I think
they called him the nerd that everybody knows and likes.
Right.
That's that endearing quality that people appreciate.
Right. I think that's true. And, I think Phil will do a good job and his campaign should be congratulated, for putting together a great grassroots effort, for not being pushed out of the race. And, I think he'll do a good job as governor. If Barb Kirkmeyer is elected, he's going to have a big race on his hands.
Oh, if she gets out of if she wins the primary. Yeah.
If she gets out of the primary. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it's very
She'll
close.
make him, I think she will make him a better candidate. I think the debates will be better. I know the rest of the Democrats would be, shooting darts at me right now, but I think she will make him a better candidate. She will make him a better governor because he will have to sharpen his talking points. It can't be all anti-Trump. She's going to go into the budget. She's going to go into human services. She's going to go into the weeds in Medicaid. She knows that budget inside and out, having created it and worked on it. She knows local governments well. I think she's going to press him on some of his policy issues that have to this point been around the 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 foot. She's going to ask for some specifics. and he's going to have to sharpen his policy. And I think that will make him a better governor. And he should look forward to that. I think Colorado,
I mean,
we deserve that. We deserve it as a
Colorado deserves that, yeah.
well, I think it makes for better governance. And I think that's what you want. You want a lot of ideas. You want people to be specific about their ideas, and she'll force him to do that. I also think, unaffiliated, there's a lot of unaffiliateds out there who haven't voted Republican because as I said last night, the Republicans have put up a lot of ding dongs for governor. But she
said that. She said it in her press conference, or I guess when she talked to the press last night. If she wins, she said, I'm going to reach out to those centrist Democrats. She's well aware of what this looks like to others. And she's a smart woman.
Right.
And I would say
she's got problems though, too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kathy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. She has worked really well coming across the aisle. So I do think those centrist Democrats, there is that opportunity. The unaffiliated, there is that opportunity. And Brenda, to your point, I do think it will be a richer election process. I think it will be, much more interesting versus if you just have Trump off the rails and then anti-Trump. I just think the debates between Phil and Barbara, that would be something to look forward to. So everyone.
I think that's right. But no, I agree with you on that. I know she's been good in the legislature, but let's not forget a couple things here. She voted to have Weld County secede from the state of Colorado. She is not pro-choice for anything. Rape, incest, any of that. She is absolutely not pro-choice. And she came out of the gate saying that she supports the president in what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has some problems as well that she's opened herself up to. I mean, the choice problem is going to be a big issue because choice is now a state,
Yes, it's a law. Yes. It's
right. And so, we can kind of say from 3,000 feet or 30,000 feet that on all these other policies, she's good. She's good on the budget, but she's got some serious flaws.
Yes.
Are going to be exploited.
Absolutely. I didn't say she was going to win. I just said I think she's going to provide a good debate spar with A.G. Weiser. And I think that does sharpen him. I think it'll just allow him to sharpen his policy perhaps a little, or as he's beginning to think about what he'll do. I mean, he doesn't propose the policies that the legislature will look at in 2027, because that will still be Governor Polis presenting the budget. But it will give him an opportunity to get in there. And I think it's good.
Right.
So even though that she has had some moments, but if it's Victor Marx, then Phil Weiser can start his transition tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Going to be interesting. When do you find out?
And then should we it could be a week.
Okay.
It could be as long as a week because votes are still coming in.
Yeah.
El Paso County's not in yet. I think Victor Marx is probably going to do pretty well there, but parts of Arapahoe aren't in yet. Parts of Weld aren't in yet. So I think there's, if she's done pretty well in the metro area, so if she can hang on, part of Larimer County's not in, then she could do well. I do want to touch on too, Kathy and Brenda, just some of these state legislative races. Camacho lost to the person more left of him. That's my district. And they both had IEs working hard for them. So the whole dark money commercial from an IE seems ridiculous to me. I think Gabriel Cervantes won in Thornton against Jackie Phillips. A lot of money was put into Jackie Phillips' campaign by, I'm guessing, One Main Street. She's the more centrist candidate. And Cervantes had a lot of problems. He is on record as saying he thought the January 6th people should have burned down the Capitol. He said some misogynistic things, I guess. And so, and he still won. And so they spent a lot of money on Jackie Phillips. Mandy Lindsay was an incumbent. She lost to Sarah Woodson, and that's House District 31. She was the one running the caucus that had the money issues. She lost in a primary. Regina English won handily in her primary. But I think we're going to see that with one party rule is that now these people who you'd get elected and then you would just cruise, you wouldn't get a primary. And now you're going to have to be on your toes because there's possibility you're going to be primaried.
Yep. Especially in the safe seats. And the other thing, though, I think we can't ignore, and maybe because I'm the history geek that I am, and also this has not gone unnoticed by other political geeks, is this the Democrats' Tea Party moment? It's kind of looking like it. When you have one part of the party that's heavily populist, unhappy, fiery, a lot of energy behind it, getting people riled up, winning some local races, some congressional races like they did in 2008. And if we look at what's happening within the Tea Party and the Republican Party, because this is what happened, it resulted in Trump won 2016, right? And now some of those people we would consider more established Republicans that have came of age in that Tea Party wave. And then new people came and said, oh, well, you guys didn't do all what you said. You didn't cut taxes. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. We're going to go further to the right than you. And look what it's done to the Republican Party. I mean, see Victor Marx, Barbara Kirkmeyer, and Scott Bottoms in Colorado as well as nationally. What do you guys think about that? I mean, this could happen to the Democrats, which is my fear.
I think we have to push back about these purity tests that one side or the other is pushing. That's what the Tea Party really did, is they brought in these purity tests. You had to pass the litmus test. And I do push back on the Working Families Party that you have to agree with them on everything for them to endorse you. I think there has to be some pushback, but party leadership has to be more inclusive of these voices. I mean, it's not going to work to push them out. It's just not. You have to be more inclusive of them, but there has to be some boundaries. Like we're not going to be anti-Semitic. We're not doing that. We're not going to tolerate anti-Semitism. And I think there has to be some boundaries, but we've got to start these young people aren't coming to Democratic meetings. They're on social media, yet the Democrats aren't on social media. The Democratic State Party's not on social media. Sometimes you see the chair talking, but they have no social media plan. They're not getting young people engaged. And so when you ask a young person, what are the values of the Democratic Party? What are the bedrock values? They don't know.
Well, as I said, I'm not sure they know the bedrocks of the Democratic Socialists of America either. I'm not sure they know those either, other than they know Free Palestine, they know Medicare for All, they know, I would say, these, campaign slogans. What it takes to achieve these things, I'm not sure that they know any of that. I think James Coleman and Senator Coleman and the other leaders down are going to have some difficulties possibly this year.
Yeah,
I think they're going to have a lot of difficulties.
long road ahead of them. And I would, to go back to what they know is what they scroll. And so to your point, if it is not 15 seconds or less, so no, they're not diving in and learning the values and how this was started. So I do, again, we are at this turning point where I think this messaging we really need to invest more into the messaging and just say, how do we provide affordable housing? How do we look at providing affordable health care? What does Medicare for all mean? And is that achievable? I mean, that's, we have to do it in really quick infographics and sound bites. And that's a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge for the Democrats.
Yeah,
I agree.
I challenge a good communication strategist to come up with this.
Exactly. I mean, I think finally we should talk a little bit about the Senate race. Julie Gonzalez didn't have the money that John Hickenlooper had. She got in the 40s. I don't think anybody predicted that would happen.
She almost won Denver. She
did win Denver.
Or she did win Denver, right?
Yes.
She won Denver.
So, that, to me, I think if she'd have gotten in the race sooner, and maybe if she had left the legislature and just campaigned full time, that wasn't feasible for her probably, because people have to work, pay rent, pay the mortgage. But Hickenlooper would have had the same problem.
Absolutely.
And I also think she didn't stay on message. She got waylaid on different messages, like he won't debate me, yeah. And her message should have been through the whole thing. He voted for Trump nominees. He's not fighting Trump. And that should have been her only message. And she sort of got distracted on these little side things about people don't care whether he debated you or not, in my opinion. They don't care.
I agree with that, yeah. I also think, again, it was just this discontent with incumbency. I think that is what we are seeing, is that people are mad. And I think, and not just young people, I think a lot of people, they are just mad. Democrats are mad for one reason, in terms of because of the Trump presidency and what that's doing to our country. And then you've got this other group of people that change loyalty every 4 years because they're okay. They voted for they didn't like President Obama. Okay, so they voted for Trump one. Okay, and things didn't materialize like he said they would. Okay, so they voted for Biden. Oh, things didn't get better there. Oh, they voted for Trump again. They're waiting for something different. They want something to help them. They're not, looking for big policy. They're not thinking big thoughts. They're looking at their lives. They're looking at the costs of groceries, education, healthcare, and they are looking for something to fix this. So they change every few years. Yeah, it's this. They're not dug in the R, the D world.
Right.
No, it's individual messaging. It's what's in it for me. And that's, yeah.
I think that's a really important point, Cathy. And I've had several people in their 20s say that to me, is that their thing is what's in it for me. And I find it super annoying, to be honest, and incredibly entitled. But the reality is you have to meet people where they are. And so no matter how much, it's like, God, it's not all about you. Look around you. That's what I want to say to them. But that's not where they are. They're about themselves and, their job and their living and their healthcare. So we have to meet them where they are, and we have to start addressing these issues in a meaningful way. And I think what you saw is get rid of these folks who aren't doing it fast enough and who aren't pushing hard enough. And we're going to put people in there who we think can do better.
Well, we're going to give them a try. Right. And I think there's something there's something to this. Well, you know what? And if they don't work, we're going to push them out and try somebody else.
Right.
Until we find somebody who does. And that seems to be the pattern. So I think even President Trump, may know this, that if he doesn't do this, he's gone because he saw it already. He experienced this already.
Right.
And that's a whole different issue about what he could do about the election or any of that. But I think he knows that these people are fickle. they're not party loyalists. These are not, I'm voting for a Democrat no matter what, because I've always voted Democrat, or I voted for Republican, because they really are what is in it for me. And things have not gotten better in this country for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, and their patience is thin.
Yes. Yes, they are losing patience, and they are not interested in common good. I just for fun yesterday, I Googled Elizabeth Warren because she passed, along with Tim Scott last week, the first bipartisan bill that has passed Congress in forever on affordable housing. And it's a big bill, but I think President Trump said he wouldn't sign it until he gets his voting, his state back, which is, again, I don't think super popular with the public, but I just Googled her efficacy, and she has been there since 2013. She's passed 44 bills. I think her constituents might think that she's been very effective to them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think she has too. And she's full of ideas. I mean, we talked about this too a little bit last night. I was talking about universal health care and Medicare for all. And I said, people see Diana has been a proponent of that, and a big proponent of that. But the problem is people see no movement on it. And the other thing, she isn't saying, okay, we're not getting Medicare for all because you're saying it costs too much money. So how about we say this? If you have a spouse who's 65 and going on Medicare, and you're 60 to 65, you go on it too.
Right.
So let's start with that small group. And at the other end, let's say once you turn 27 and you're off your parents' insurance, you go on Medicare. So you're doing it from both ends, and let's pilot that and see what the cost is. And, a healthier, wellness and taking care of your health early, I can't remember what that's called, makes you healthier because they find problems before they're problems. And so let's try. Look, I'm not saying that's the right thing. I don't know. I'm not an expert in it, but I also know not doing anything for years isn't working. And people like all of us who are small business owners, who are self-employed, who are pay for private insurance, our deductibles are huge. It's unrealistic. And basically you have catastrophic insurance so you don't go bankrupt if you have an emergency. Yep. And so let's try something.
We used to try some of these things under other presidents. They had grants for states to do some of these innovation things. And that was under Bush 1, Bush 2, Obama, where states could apply. Maybe it's just one state that would have tried that. I don't care if they tried in New Hampshire, where hardly anyone lives. Try it someplace to see.
Right.
Yeah, let's experiment.
I think that's the public is just wanting. Okay, they're great. They're piloting that in Oklahoma. Super. Let's see how it works in Oklahoma. And the next year they're going to pilot it in some other state, Montana, wherever.
Right.
Who cares?
And how much money did this save us?
Yes.
And I think that's people want to see a forward motion, but there's not even an idea about it. There's no discussion about it. It's like, well, we put up a bill. Now the Republicans aren't doing it. Put up another bill. Like, that's the thing I think I want to see too, is more progress, more forward motion.
And I give Elizabeth Warren credit. She worked with Tim Scott. It's not like those two are ideologically married, hardly. But in the bill, she said it's not exactly what she envisioned.
It's not perfect, but it's a great starting point.
Right.
That hasn't happened for 2 years.
Right.
And I'm not even sure how many people knew about that bill. Because I can tell you, it was not on the front page of anything. I didn't see it in my social media feed hardly at all.
We only knew about it because an hour before they were doing the bill signing, Trump pulled. He was supposed to, they actually had the desk and the pens and everything set up, and he pulled. That's what made the headlines. So Brenda, you are so right. And I think that's such important messaging. When we're talking about unity, let's talk about unity and how we can build this together. Because again, this just saying my way or the highway, that's not working either. People are tired of that. So it's just
people are tired of it.
Just something. So yeah, good for Elizabeth Warren. So this weekend is the 4th of July. Would you all stay up to 11 o'clock to watch the 4th of July fireworks in DC?
No.
This year?
No. Somebody put on Threads, Trump says this is a big crowd. I saw a bigger crowd at my dentist's office today. So all these people were saying that. So I put up there, I had a bigger crowd at my first communion. They're pretending that there's all these people there. There's nobody.
And it's in the middle of a heat wave.
It's like
too.
Heat wave
we have eyeballs. We can see there's nobody there. And they're insisting there's 250,000 people there. And it's like, well, where are they?
Yeah, where are
hilarious.
People? Oh, I think it's so funny. And then, so I guess on Saturday, on the actual 4th of July, there is a tribute to America that's running first. So basically taxpayer money. And we get to hear, not we, because we're not going to be there or listening to it, but whoever attends and when it's broadcast, they get to hear Trump drone on and on about his tribute to America. And usually fireworks, you go, they start at 9 o'clock when it gets dark, not starting until 11.
Right.
Because they have to listen to him for 2 hours. So
they're
we'll
not going
see how that crowd dwindles.
People with kids will not stay.
Oh,
they couldn't get anyone to stay
right now. So I'm going to send him over there with his iPhone. I said, I want you to film this and send it back to me. Because he's at Catholic University. He's not far from the White House at all. So I'm like, I want you to go over there to film this and tell me how many people are there. Because I went to the Trump inauguration, his first one in 2016, because I thought Hillary was going to win. And I bought the hotel. I bought 2 hotel rooms in July, which I had to go. I had plane tickets and hotel rooms. So we went and we entered through the back, and there was at every entrance of the green, it's fenced off, but they have those, those lines that are roped off that you go in a squiggly line. I don't know what that's called. And there would be nobody was even in those lines. And my niece went to Obama's inauguration, his first inauguration. She was in high school, and she went there with a few friends. And she said every line was backed up for blocks, along with the sort of the snake setup. And so we walked around to the back. We walked right in. We walked past the Washington Monument, and he's putting out pictures. It just wasn't true. It was hilarious. So I want to see how many people are there.
I think it's going to turn out to be a big fat disappointment. I think it sounded good, and also I think a lot of local communities have done a lot of good work in the 250. There's a lot of good work around the 150, 250 here. Local communities have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in. And I think a lot of local communities are going to have terrific 4th of July celebrations. But
DC might be lacking this year, but we'll see. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Attituders. We loved having you along for the ride, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Stay unfiltered, unbossed,
And unapologetically you. And keep your attitude. I'm Brenda.
I'm Sheila McDonald.
And I'm Cathy. See you next time, Attituders.